All right, I'd like to welcome you guys to the August 18th meeting of the Hampton Roads Metheny chapter of SABR. We are lucky to have author Mark Epstein with us this evening. He's written a book about the Cape Cod League called Cape Dreams, a season with the Brewster Whitecaps. Mark has also written a couple other books. He wrote his own, I guess I'd call it a biography, right?
Yeah, memoir with education. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
Called They Call Me Pathfinder: Education and Baseball Equity. And then he wrote a second book titled Jack the Shot Foley, a legend of all time, right? For a basketball book, and it's been honored by the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. So we are very lucky to have Mark with us tonight. But before I let Mark get started, I have to ask him one question. And that question
I
is,
know it is.
what is the significance of your nickname Pathfinder?
Yeah, for sure. I knew that was coming as soon as you said that. That, uh, I was very close with my dad. He had a sporting good business, and I grew up in it. And obviously, and then I joined in after I graduated college. I worked alongside him rather, and when I was about 11, 12 years old, and in the sporting goods store, he had a section of sleeping bags, and they were all different names. They were Trailblazers, Buccaneer, Mount Washington, Pathfinder, and one day he asked me to go up to the top shelf and climb the step ladder and bring one down, and a bunch fell all over the place in boxes around him, and he started calling me Pathfinder, and he said, "Pathfinder, get out of here. You know, you're useless like the sleeping bags." And I went home that night. Everybody thinks it's like a Boy Scout, Cub Scout thing or Eagle Scout. I was never in any of those. And I got home that night, and he said, "Pathfinder, get out of my sight. Go to bed." And the next morning, he opened the door and he said, "Hey, Pathfinder, come on down. I'll give you another chance today." And it stuck. And and then it was a fun thing, and he ended up naming everybody in our family after one of the sleeping bags, but I was the only one that stuck. And my mother was Mount Everest for about an hour, and she put a stop to that one. um, and I, and it became a fun moniker for me to have, and a lot of people don't even know my first name, so I kept it going. We were so close after he passed. It's been a feel good thing for me to have in certain places. And that's really where it came from. And he was a great guy, and he's been like everybody's dad, or most dads, I should say. But he was he's been a real inspiration, and kind of like a best friend type relationship where he meant the world to me, and I wanted to keep that nickname going after he passed away.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for sharing us. That's a good story. That's a great story.
It's kind of fun. Most of the people know that, and the ones that don't, they think it's, like you're a Cub Scout or an Eagle Scout, and I was a Pathfinder. No, man, I just knocked some sleeping bags off a shelf one day. I mean, that's
Very
really
good.
that's really what it happened.
That's great. Well,
This
tell us about your book.
I'm so proud of this that I've been a fan of the Cape Cod Baseball League for over 50 years, 52 years. Started going about 1974, and every summer I would go from Worcester, where I lived for a long time before I moved to South Carolina, and I spent my summers on the Cape still. And part of the intrigue and excitement of being on the Cape in the summer for me was attending Cape Cod baseball games. So I've been to several hundred at different ballparks. And when I was telling the chapter last week in New Hampshire, Vermont, someone asked me the question and they couldn't believe the answer. So I'm going to, I think I never really looked at it as a unique, something surprising, because I just never thought of learning anyone's name. But they said, who did you see at the Cape that you caught your eye and you thought was going to develop into a great player? I mean, that's just a normal question.
Right.
Well, the surprising answer to that is I never knew anyone's name. I didn't know who I was watching. I never kept the roster sheet they gave. I never knew of anyone except if you ask me, did you see him? Yeah, I guess I did. I was at their games. You could say, did you see Judge? Yeah, I guess so. If you see Noma, well, I had to. Do you remember? No. I was just going to a game. I never cheered for one team. I was just addicted to the entire league. And if I was staying in Falmouth, that's the closest ballpark. So it became the Falmouth Commodores I went to. If it was in Dennis, I went to the YD Yarmouth Dennis games.
Mm.
My wife, after I moved away, because it was a ritual for me to spend 2 or 3 weeks on the Cape and go to these ballparks. And I never had a favorite team. You know, I would, towards the end of a game, if Falmouth scored a couple runs and took the lead, I would clap a little bit. But if they weren't at playing a home game, I would go to Katuitt and watch the Kettleers because that was a close ballpark, or go to a game in Bourne because that wasn't that far a ride either. And if I were in Dennis, I would go to a game in Harwich or Orleans and follow them and watch them. So I know this is very, I would be surprised if someone said, no, wait a second. You've been following this league for 50 years and you don't know who you saw play. That's right. I never, until last year when I wrote this book, I never knew one player on one roster. And I think that was the intrigue for me and fascination of the league and how much it meant to me, because I didn't care. I didn't care who was playing. I didn't care who was on any team. Just get me to the ballpark in the evening. And my wife felt the same way when I met her in the mid 90s. She's a South Carolina grad. So as long as she was going to a ballpark that had a Gamecock, she was happy. So it wasn't like I was a fan of the Falmouth Commodores and knew or remember Chris Sale playing or Frank Thomas playing, or obviously Billy Wagner. Yeah, I saw them, but I couldn't tell you anything about them that day, what they did. I don't remember them on the, I just remember players.
Right.
I just remember players. I don't remember numbers, names. If someone stood out to me, maybe I'd go back a second and third time and go, hey, they got a pretty good first baseman. I never knew their names though. And you watch a shortstop and go, hey, that shortstop's pretty good. But I never wanted to pick up, I never cared about And then you're watching a major league game on ESPN, and then they, will say so and so played for, or I watched Nesson Red Sox games, and they go and they'll say, so and so played for Chatham 4 years ago, and my wife will say, "Do you remember him?" Mark, we went to Chatham game. I said, I don't know who. I'm sure we saw him play, but I can't tell you anything about any of their players. I said,
Right.
but maybe I should have kept the roster sheets. But that was part of the mystique to me. I think, kind of almost like unconsciously or subconsciously, it was kind of like just enjoy it for what it is. It's great baseball. Don't have a favorite team. Don't try to learn all the names. Just, I could do that with every American League team that the Red Sox played for many, many years using our season tickets at Fenway. I mean, I could rattle off whole rosters. I didn't want to get into it that deep. I just wanted to be there in the environment of a beautiful summer evening on sitting on a blanket or a beach chair, getting in for free, and watching future major leaguers. That was enough for me. That was plenty for me. I was addicted to that. I needed to have that. And if it was a great game, that's a bonus. I mean, that's what I rooted for. I rooted for great games. I couldn't care less who won. I never even knew. I never knew the championships were that important to the teams until I wrote Cape Dreams, a season with the Brewster Whitecaps. The whole thing changed. I traveled for 9 weeks with the team, and I learned everybody's name. And I'm going to be going to a lot of weddings coming up in the next 3 to 5 years. I became like a teammate to them. I wasn't an author, and you couldn't write a book like this as an author. You had to blend in and let yourself be one of the guys. And
Right.
my work as a high school basketball coach and guidance counselor and my personality allowed me to do that. And I do it very well. And it took only maybe a week. But that's my strength is I didn't get caught up in I'm the author, because that would have been a turnoff to guys. They don't
Right.
care about titles. Just be a regular guy, hang with us. And like Andrew Fisher calls me his dude, and Andrew Fisher is on the front cover, was drafted in the first round by Milwaukee about 4 weeks ago. And he'll be one of my best friends for the rest of my life, even if he was drafted in the 15th round.
Right.
It wouldn't have mattered to me. We're guys. I got to a game in Columbia this year, and Andrew came out of the dugout before the game, playing for Tennessee, first team All-American. And he gives me the shirt off his back and goes in and puts on another one and signs it for me. And there's a picture of us together, and holding a book outside the dugout after he came back out. I gave one to all his family, and all his family members, and I gave him a nickname in the book, and we had a great relationship. But with all the guys, whether it be J.D. Rogers from Vanderbilt, who didn't play much for them, or Dan Cuvée with Miami, who's also on the cover, or Kane and Ken, Jeff Kent's son. I got lucky. Zach Neto's on the cover, great interview. Aaron Judge is on the cover. Peter Gammons wrote the foreword. I really got lucky. Major League Baseball got behind this project. It had been 23 years since there was a book written on Cape Cod baseball. And because it's changing so much, if I didn't get it done this year, there was no chance that the league is dramatically different from year to year, or from this year to 3 years ago. And I can't even imagine what it's going to be like 2 or 3 years from now.
How did you get access to, like, how
Yeah.
did you approach them and get get them to agree to give
Well,
you that kind of access?
yeah, I went through the league president, so it was all authorized. And I wanted to do one on the whole league. He says, Mark, you can't do it on the whole league. You know, it would be almost impossible. Pick a team and follow them. I go, yeah, I never thought of that concept. So I got Falmouth because I spend time there in the summer. So they didn't want to do it. They have an all-star game coming up in the middle of the season. They didn't want to devote any time to anything else. All right, that's fine. So I went to Chatham, but they already had their book written 23 years ago, The Last Best League. That was the movie Summer Catch.
Mm-hmm.
That was Summer Catch. Terrible movie, unbelievable book. Great book. Jim Collins was a mentor to me while I wrote this. He was the author of that. No competition. I don't get into that with him. I think mine's better though. Sorry, Jim. Um, great guy though. Jim is a great guy. you know. The manager of Brewster really wanted it. The president really wanted it. Of Brewster. They came after me real hard after I agreed with Orleans, the Firebirds. They used to be called the Cardinals. And they came after it hard, and they wanted, they're a small market team up there. They're an expansion team of '88. Aaron Judge did play for them. Billy Wagner played for them. They have a nice tradition of players, but until this guy, Jamie Chevchek from Keystone College, got hired to manage them in 2016, they had struggled to have a good team. And he's just trying to branch out, and he wanted to use this book for that reason. And he's on the cover. Zach Netto's on the cover. Aaron Judge is on the cover. Peter Gammons wrote the forward. I got lucky. I got real lucky with him. I really did. I went to an all-star game in Falmouth last year because I knew he goes to all-star games. So I went looking for an interview with him with my tape recorder. There's 200 interviews in here. And I wanted him real bad. I wanted to have that name recognition because I have none. Zero. Pathfinder has squat for a name recognition. Matt Hyde, the Yankee scout, who did 2 or 3 interviews, and he was talking to him. He introduced us, and I asked him if he would mind speaking into the mic and letting me use his interview in the book, and I'll be honored. And I got home and I started thinking about it after I got back from the Cape, and I was there 9 weeks, and the access was ridiculous. The access I had was on buses, in the dugout, in meetings. If they cut a player, they wanted me there to see his reaction. I mean, there were literally no seats. It was ridiculous. Andrew Fisher, J.D. Rogers said to me, "We should have given you a jersey with number 33 on it. You were a team member. You weren't an author." I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, everything I could have wanted and more. It was sensational. The back and forth with the players. I gave them more. I was on them as part of the story. We had, before every game, we had story time. They told me my stories were the best at the end of the season. And I said, I don't know if that's good or bad. I shouldn't have been telling that many stories. I have a lot of basketball stories, and they wanted to hear them all the time. My relationships with several megastars, the greatest names in American sports. In basketball, I've been lucky. I worked a couple camps with Bill Russell as the Bill Russell basketball camp, and his counselors were always the Hall of Famers. So I spent a lot of time around those guys, and they wanted to hear about them all the time. And plus I'm a character a little bit. And I never was going to cross the line with them, though. I was not I did one thing that Jim Collins did that I didn't like. I'm a retired guidance counselor. I was not going to exploit their vulnerabilities to sell books. I wouldn't have. I didn't do that. Jim did that, and good for him. And I loved the story. It was juicier than mine. Mine's more fun than his, but I wanted it written that way. His is he gives the gossip off the field. I left those guys alone. You know, I wasn't into their business off the field as much as I was when they were I did my workouts with them at the gym every day. I was there with them for lunch. I was there with them for dinner. I was there in the dugout. I was there at their host family's breakfast. I mean, there was nothing I missed.
Mm.
I was at every batting practice. I was at every infield outfield practice. And I took them out to dinner a few times. The access was tremendous, better than I thought. So I went with the right team in Brewster. I don't think I would have had that because they just wanted it more. And I think it's their story. It's the Cape story. I organized it for them. After my first two books, did very, very well. Surprised me. I had no inkling I was ever going to be an author. And like a lot of people, I got bored during the pandemic. So, I took a stab at a memoir, and I knew my basketball background was pretty solid. And I knew my work in educational equality was pretty solid because I got the MLK award in South Carolina in 2016 when I retired. So I knew that was legit. And I thought if I put them both together, I had some stories to tell. And it went well. And I didn't think in the beginning I was doing it for the family because I had moved away under some duress and no one really knew what happened to me and what I ended up doing. And I wanted to share my life I was pretty well known. And after a divorce, it got pretty ugly. And I thought I needed a break. And people just thought I left for different reasons. And that, I came to South Carolina not knowing where I was going, pulled over on the side of the road, and ended up using my degree that I never gave any thought to, and ended up in education. So I wanted to let people know the book went well. The second book, I was motivated to do a big basketball story, and I did. Like you said, it was given an award by the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame as the basketball story of the year in 23. And that shocked me. To this day, sitting in the lobby and signing that basketball book to guests and hearing my name announced on the loudspeaker there was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. That'll be one of the biggest thrills of my life. And this book ended up getting adopted by the National Baseball Hall of Fame in the library. And to be a self-published author and to have two books in two National Sports Hall of Fames, that almost doesn't make sense to me. I just got lucky. I just got really lucky. And this book might have been the luckiest of all, because if it wasn't written last summer, the league has changed so much that I'm not sure it could be written again. And I'm being honest with you. In fact, the Brewster president said that to me the other day. You couldn't write this story again next year, could you? I go, no.
What has changed
Well, what
now
happened with the
versus when
NIL?
you
Yeah,
wrote the book?
sure. And we all go through the NIL, the transport. Okay, we got so sick of hearing stories about it. But this is how it impacted the Cape League. Everyone was concerned that they were going to have to pay players. Okay, so they were like, God, what happens if we have to pay? We don't have sponsors like that can afford it. Our teams can't afford it. We put them up with hosts, and we play on sandlot fields. We don't charge. How are we ever going to come up with the money? So they were concerned about that, and rightfully so, Andrew. And y'all, so they were concerned about the money they thought they were going to have to give up. Paulette and Robert, Carl, and that isn't how it was impacted. It was they got blindsided by the fact that the college coaches now were looking at their players as commodities. And because the coaches are in the big schools are all getting the salaries we know they're getting. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Even baseball, they're up to 4 million, especially in the SEC. Well, they won't let their pitchers, they won't let any of their regular pitchers go there anymore. None of the schools. They're out. They're done. They are done. And if they do let a pitcher go there, they'll limit them to 12 to 15 innings for the whole season and make them come back. Okay, so that's been for 2 or 3 years now. Okay, not just this year or last year.
So how is the league getting? Where are they getting their pitching from?
61 players played for Brewster this year. 61, 30-man roster. They had the third most players in the league. Last year, they had the fewest, 52, and they finished dead last. We finished dead last year. Brewster Whitecaps, I shouldn't give that up. It's an unbelievable story. One of the best rosters in the history of the league. Not just saying that. Flat out. Look up the names. Ken Cuvée, Miami. Okay. Nolan Schubart, Oklahoma State. Look, Google him. And it's what it is. A third round draft. Patrick Forbes, first round draft pick this year. Louisville. Yeah, I mean, yeah. What we had, what we knew, but the pitchers didn't stay.
Right.
So where we play, you've got 2 or 3 pitchers coming in every 2 or 3 days.
So how did the president and general manager get the players? Like, it's hard to turn a roster over like that.
The team manager does. He's got a million connections all over the country. Jamie Shevchik told me yesterday on the phone, out of the 9 seasons he's been with Brewster, this was his least enjoyable season. He said all he did was sit on the phone. He said this year, the team that had the fewest players, Chatham, 50, he said, finished dead last. He says, so you know what the formula is now, Mark? Bring them in and let them go if you want to have a good team. How about that?
Now they don't have to.
575 players came through the league this year. That's how it's changed, Andrew. Okay.
So they don't have that issue with non-pitchers, though. Is that issue the
same? Yeah, they stay a little longer. Brewster had 14 players stay throughout the whole season this year. 6 of them were pitchers. I got the numbers from them, so I'm giving you. I just found this out. Last year, 22 players stayed, and that's why I was able to write a good book. That's why I was able to write a good book last year. We came together. We stayed before we got there before the season and left after the season, and those were my relationships. You can't write a book with guys coming and going now. I mean, there's no way. You can't develop relationship. The host families are upset because they can't keep a player all season anymore. They don't want a turnstile in their front door.
Right.
Stay a week and get to know another player. No, that's not the tradition of the league. The tradition of the league was built on building relationships throughout the summer. where the guys get to know their host families. They become part of their families. They go to their weddings. They become godfathers. The children become brothers and sisters to them. They follow them in the major leagues. No, I mean, it's a different world. What they didn't know, they didn't see that coming, Andrew. Okay? They thought maybe money was going to enter into it. Well, money has not entered into it. Money has entered into it at the college level. Like Tennessee coach, okay? I'm not supposed to say this. This is off the record. But they're a small group. Okay, I was told yesterday by the president of the Whitecaps. Don't tell anyone this, Mark. I said, okay, well. Tennessee and Mississippi State, 2 SEC schools. You know what happens. Who's going to follow? They've already told the manager of the Brewster Whitecaps they're not sending any more players to them anymore.
Mm.
So if 2 SEC schools have been crossed off the list, more are coming, man.
So, but isn't that a disservice to the players? Because
it's a total disservice to the players.
Because one of the benefits of the Cape Cod League from a player perspective is using wooden bats and scouts seeing you play, right, with that environment. So
okay. And the other thing is they learn how to become professional baseball players because they're playing day after day after day. They're not going to classes. They have to get up, do their workouts, get to the field for batting practice. They're learning. Peter Gammons, I'm going to read this to you because you nailed it. You nailed what he kind of says in the forward. Okay, it's only a 2-pager, but I'm going to let him take the credit for this. Mr. Gammons was off and running when the Brewster Whitecaps were mentioned. This is what the American baseball icon and Hall of Famer enshrined in Cooperstown had to say. Brewster is a great place. Hopefully Chase Utley, Brewster Whitecaps 98, will be going into the Hall of Fame next year. And that Billy Wagner, I've been coming to games on the Cape for a long time. And in my opinion, Billy Wagner, Brewster Whitecaps 92, is the best pitcher I've ever seen in this league. I remember the first time I saw Wagner pitch. I couldn't believe it. And that Chase Utley just outworked everyone. I saw Aaron Judge play for Brewster. Mr. Gammons continued, this Cape Cod Baseball League is invaluable. I think the MLB has done a disservice to the Cape League. They don't care, though. Look how many minor league teams have been eliminated just in the last few years. It used to be you had the same players on a Cape roster all summer. Now each team has about 50 players who go through every year. Mr. Gammons, 52 years ago, it's up to 60. An SEC coach came to Hyannis last summer, and in the middle of a game was trying to get a few players to transfer to a school and leave with him the next day. That's terrible when that happens. Money in college athletics is ruining our national pastime. Buck Showalter, the longtime NLB manager and Cape Cod Hall of Famer, is a player, told me last week that some college players are making almost as much as some of the MLB players are getting paid. Mr. Gammons was also pointing out that the life that these kids live here is a major step in their careers in professional baseball. This league is important. Every baseball fan should read this book, Cape Dreams. This league is so important.
So what are the general managers of the teams? How are they going to combat that mindset?
Well,
have
they can't.
Have they thought that through?
Because if these kids, like they haven't thought it through yet. Right now, it's a wild mad scramble. When these kids transfer, okay, when the portal kicks in, when the guys on the team, they can't stay. They got to report back to their school and get to know their new teammates, take some courses, get to know their coaches. So that and then they don't want to get hurt. They're going back to school and playing for $500,000 now. Andrew Fisher got $1 million. I'm not making that up. He got $1 million. His father told me. He's a good friend of mine. When he transferred from Mississippi, he transferred from Duke the first year to Mississippi. The second year, he transferred from Mississippi to Tennessee. He played the system. Andrew's one of my best friends. Andrew got it down. He made 2 recruiting trips, okay? In the middle of our season last year, took 3 days off with his dad. He visited Florida. They offered him. He went to Tennessee, coming off a College World Series championship. He signed with them. He came back. I have it in the book. One of the funniest lines all summer. He comes back and he's sitting there and he's like, we're hugging each other. I miss you, man. He goes, I called him Kid Brett. I missed you, Kid Brett. And he goes, missed you too, Pathfinder. He said, I got a real problem. I said, what's your problem, Andrew? He said, I always hated Tennessee. Now I got to figure a way to like them. I said, you'll figure it out, Andrew. I know you got it in you. He says, yeah. He says, I think I already do. He says, and we're laughing our fannies off. The guys are dying. And he comes back the next day and he gives me 3 pairs of his Arkansas batting gloves. Okay, I got one sitting right here. And Ole Miss, yeah. So, and yeah, they're autographed, yeah. So, Andrew, you would have never given me those if you didn't enter the transfer portal. He says, I would have given them to you, Pathfinder, but I would have waited until they ripped. I mean, great friendships, all the guys.
So what was?
But he left. And the reason I'm saying, bringing his name back up, he left because he was nervous after he signed with Tennessee, and he tweaked his back. He couldn't hang around.
Yeah,
he's got $1 million waiting for him. He's got too much at stake. So these guys, he tweaked his back, but the guys that don't get hurt, they're afraid of getting hurt, and they leave after the scouts have seen them 4 or 5 games. That's plenty, and they're back home. They don't need to be there all summer. They do not need to be there all summer. They got out of it what they wanted, and the league's changed.
Is this happening in other collegiate leagues?
Yeah, it is, Carl. Yeah, but yes, Carl. It is happening all over. But the problem with the Cape is this year, the Cape had, I know this is hard to believe. Last year they had 15 first rounders. This year they had 17. When I was there, 15 of the players that were drafted in the first round by major league teams had played on the Cape. This year, 17. So when you say, is this happening in other leagues? Yeah, but it isn't impacted as much because they're not getting the best players in the country. The Cape gets the best players. They get the 10, 15, 20th round or the independent league players. So the Cape is really feeling it. So
yeah, I go see teams in the Coastal Plains League, which I was nowhere near that level as of the Cape.
No, it's nowhere near.
Right.
435 players last year were on major league. Former Cape players were on major league rosters at the same time.
Gotcha.
Not made up. I mean, yeah, you can't make stuff up. You know. I came home with a cold because I did 42 book signings and I was run down this summer. Last summer was the best summer of my life. This summer, it was miserable. I didn't see one game. I was doing book signings.
Well, I'm just wondering, is that going to affect your going to the games much with what you're describing with the NIL and the college coaches and all that?
Yeah, it does. I've lost interest in it. I'm going to tell you something. You asked a heck of a question, Carl. I would not have written this book this year. In fact, now I know as much as I do about it, I've lost the romance of the league. I told that to my wife. I said, Barbara, I've lost I wish I hadn't written it. I know too much. I guess maybe that's the best way to describe it. I wish I hadn't written it because I know too much and my enthusiasm has been diminished with the changing of times within college athletics. What they thought was going to impact it came in a roundabout way, and it impacted it just as much, even without them paying. Because now the host families are disenchanted. The players are not allowed to stay all season, the pitchers, and the ones that are the ones that were sitting out anyway are hurt and didn't get any innings in this year, so they need them to pitch a little bit. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Patrick Forbes, the reason he was there last year, he missed his whole sophomore season. So he came to Brewster, pitched 15 innings, and they sent him home. And he got drafted in the first round. I mean, you're talking about a guy that signs for $2 million on the bonus. So he doesn't want it, Patrick Forbes is another story with that, and I can't touch it because I left it out of the book. Our manager, Jamie Shevchik, was devastated. It was the second year in a row he quit on him, and he didn't want to take him, and he was talked into it by the pitching coach of Louisville, and he gave him another chance, and he did it to him again. Yeah,
maybe your next book could be the about NIL and how it impacted the Cape Cod League.
Oh, it's going to, if you ask me, Mark, in 3 to 5 years, what's going to happen to the Cape League? My guess, and a big article has been written in the Falmouth. It's not the Constitution. It doesn't matter. It's the Falmouth Weekly newspaper. Big feature. Author concerned of Cape League's future. Big interview. And what I said to answer your question, in 3 to 5 years, the league is going to be a summer college pickup sandlot league where the teams are going to be scrambling from game to game to field a team. That was my quote. And Jamie Shevchik, that manager of Brewster, when he read it, I asked him how he felt about it. He said, I disagree with you, Mark, on your quote about the future. I said, really? He says, yeah, it's already there. I went, ooh. Whoa. I didn't expect that from him.
I guess the other option is that instead of the first through fifth round guys playing in the Cape, it'll be the other guys playing in the Cape because they need the exposure. They need
and that's right. There'll always be good players. There'll always be fans. 100%. Because there'll always be scouts. As long as the scouts are there, and as long as people will come like me who don't care. They just want a game to go to. And there are more out there in the summer because they're vacationers and they want a feel good family outing with their children, and the playgrounds are close by, and it's an unbelievable environment, and it's special, and it's American. It's the values our country were built on. It's the last amateur athletic organization left standing in America. I can go on and on. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I treat this book like a road trip. I'm going to read you a little passage. You can see the juices flowing now. I love it. Here, I write it in chapters. I write it in innings. Okay, listen. This is how I feel. Close your eyes, all of you, right now. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. That's an order. Close your eyes. Tap your heels together 3 times and repeat. There's no place like paradise. Where is this special paradise, you're asking yourself? Let's look beyond the rainbow. Buckle up and get ready to go on the greatest road trip you've ever been on. In today's world of cynicism, a few readers may be wondering if paradise even exists. You may even be wondering, where are we heading? Well, this paradise has existed for 101 years, and if you've never been there, you're well on your way. If you're from California and have watched a Major League Baseball game, you've heard about it. If you're from New York and follow the Yankees or Mets, you've definitely heard about it. If you're from Ohio and you're a Guardian fan or a Reds fan, same thing, you heard about it. If you grew up in Texas and follow baseball, most likely you know about it. From Florida, of course. From New England, paradise is close by. From every state in the union, sports fans have been hearing about it for years. When Aaron Judge comes to the plate for the Yankees, announcer Michael Kay of Yes Network may have spoken about it. When Billy Wagner was pitching for the Astros, Todd Kalis, the play-by-play announcer for Space City Home Network in Houston, probably mentioned where Wagner was discovered. If you're from Chicago, Ken Harrelson, better known as the Hawk, said its name live several times on NBC Sports Chicago when Frank Thomas was hitting bombs for the White Sox. That was before the Big Hurt was enshrined in Cooperstown. The legendary Hall of Fame beat writer Hal McCoy has written about it a few times in the Dayton Daily News, especially when Sean the Mayor Casey was playing for the Reds. Wayne Randazzo, the play-by-play guy for the Angels on Bally Sports West, is currently reminding everyone where their shortstop phenom Zach Netter was first scouted. Red Sox fans heard the late, great Jerry Remy talk constantly about it on SN, especially when Nomar Garcia-Parra was playing in B-Town a few years back. Yes, prepare yourself go on a baseball journey that harkens back to when baseball was our national pastime, when games were played without the new NCAA, its name, image, and likeliness, NIL agreements. Can you even imagine? When the games were still played on sandlot fields, when so-called advisors were not keeping a close eye on their commodities, when players didn't wear oversized mitts on their hands when they ran the bases, when college hitters used wooden bats, when ticket prices were not $2,500 to sit in the front row at Yankee Stadium. Also, let's remember when fans grew up and remained loyal to their hometown team, because that's what was handed down. Once upon a time, baseball was pure. Players were not yet counting their money while still in college. Everything about sports in America has changed. The one thing that has outlasted all of the above and has remained true to the values and principles that founded our great nation is the Cape Cod Baseball League, located on the shores of Massachusetts. So that's how I start the story. If you don't think I have a love affair with that league, my passion pours out on every page of this book.
It's definitely sounds like it. What is one thing that was the hardest thing for you to do as you were writing the book? What was the most challenging aspect of writing the book?
The most challenging aspect of writing the book. I had a great support system. So whenever I had like a problem with authoring it, writing, I had some great historical sports writers. Hal McCoy is invaluable to me. I consider him one of my closest friends. I had him at my fingertips anytime I needed it. The greatest challenge of writing this book, I would say being a no-name author, being the ultimate underdog, and trying to get it out. But that's not writing it. That's marketing and selling it. So for me, I would say what was really hard is the season didn't go the way we expected, even though the lineup will go down in the annals as one of the greatest rosters ever on paper in the whole league. I mean, hands down. The scouts all knew that. The scouts would all talk about it all the time to me. And there were like 150 scouts. That was the one thing that they were saying by far and away, Bruce has got the best roster in the league. Yeah, we did. And because it didn't go off on the field the way it did on paper, I had to come on up with plan B, and then plan C, and then plan D. And then I had to keep looking to look for interviews that were going to hold the readers, because I wasn't sure the on-field success, what was happening on the field was good enough to keep the readers throughout the book. So we got some incredible, so that kind of helps the story a lot, because it pushed me beyond my comfort zone and looking for the J.P. Ricciardis. He is the originator of Moneyball. You know, that's why, he was Billy Bean's assistant GM for a long time. But Toronto Blue Jays hired him off of his success with Moneyball. So he was the GM for them, and he left Oakland. And he was with them for 9 years. He spends about 4 or 5 hours with me on how Cape Cod baseball impacted his scouting with Moneyball. And he is the originator, regardless of you might not know the name, but not just because JP is a close friend of mine, but the fact is he had the full reign to run with Moneyball. And of course, the guy who's his boss gets the credit for it, but no, it was JP, and he opens up for the first time. I found Aaron Judge's host family, the 3 kids that are all adults now, and the parents, and no one's ever interviewed them. In fact, Brian Hoke, I'm pronouncing his name wrong, from New York, reached out to me and said, I heard you have a book out that you interviewed Aaron Judge's host family. It's an unbelievable interview. We had Aaron Judge all said, but because of the way the World Series went, Matt Hyde does an unbelievable job with this interview and how he discovered him. And he grew up on the Cape, and he's still scouting there 30 years later. His interview is tremendous. Zach Neto, who's ready to sign a contract for close to $250 million in the next month or two with the Angels. Oh, it's going to happen. He talks about how he was discovered in Brewster. Literally. I mean, he went from Campbell College to Brewster to getting cut by Katuitt. Okay, in 2021, I don't want to say too much more, but he got cut. They released him after about 3 or 4 games, Katuitt. He went home to Miami. He was playing for a little Campbell College. No one heard of him. And Jamie Shevchuk calls him. They need a shortstop. And he calls him and he said, hey, you want to play with us? We need a shortstop. So he gets back on him and drives back to the Cape. And he leads them to the championship. And in 21, and becomes a first-round pick to the Angels, the 13th pick in the draft. And he's been the starting shortstop now. This is his third year. He already set the record last year for home runs by a shortstop of the Angels. He's got to break it this year because last year he ended with 23. He's already at 21. He had 30 stolen bases last year. I don't know how he didn't make the All-Star team this year. He's over 20 now. He's at 270. He's the highest batting average on this team. And now he's arbitrarily eligible, and it's out there. They're going to go 8 years with him, and he's on the cover. He's going to be over 200. They're saying there's a chance at 300. It might be a stretch. I think it's 220 to 250. And he's not far from it right now. And so you get Aaron Judge on the cover, and him on the cover, and I'm an unknown. I'm the one who's the only one known. Peter Gammons wrote the forward. I got Andrew Fisher and Nolan Schubart, and the other two guys in the picture. It's nuts. I got lucky. I mean, I have no ego. I have a love affair with the league. I love writing. I've gotten better. And my books have done well. And, and I give back. I give back a lot. I'm proud of that. So I guess I answered your question, but I had to keep going to plan A, B, C, D, and E, because what we thought was going to be a runaway championship turned out to be an on-field struggle. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, shit, this isn't, you better, you need to reinvent the wheel here on the fly. And that's what I had to do to make this story work. And that was hard, because I was going back after a game, Andrew, at 10 at night, and I was writing until 3 in the morning, and I was getting up at 5 o'clock and pacing, and then I'd go back to sleep and nap, and then at 7 o'clock I'm editing it till 9, and then I'm at the gym with the guys at 9:30 again, and the whole thing just repeats. Yeah. And so I get back here and I spend 6 months around the clock, 7 days a week, putting this thing together, because I had to meet the deadline of opening day Major League Baseball, or I was going to miss an opportunity for an impact. I knew the impact was opening day Major League, opening day Cape, and the holiday season. And after that, I just not going to make myself sick again. So if I go back up there again this summer, maybe I'll do 3 or 4 book signings, but I'm going to be going to some games. I can't do what I did again.
Well, Mark, your passion for the topic is obvious, and it comes through in your discussion. But I want to be respectful of your time, and thank you for joining us tonight.
I want to hear if there are other. No, really, please. I love this. My wife said to me, don't you ever, she asked me this summer, don't you ever get tired of talking about the Cape League and the book? No. In fact, if I don't have a chance to talk to you all about it, I'm going to drive her crazy, because I'm going to go right back in it, and I'm going to keep talking about it. This is my addiction. I just love it. I hate what's happening. I'm upset at what's happening. I'm really heartbroken about what is going to happen. It's coming, and nothing stays the same. And obviously, the Cape was lucky to have a 102-year run without their old traditions being impacted, and now it is being hit around a little bit, and they're going to have to figure out how to survive it. They're going to have to come together. It's 10 towns in the league, okay, make up the league. Oh, it's Chatham and Harwich and Orleans and Yarmouth Dennis. Yarmouth Dennis is one team. Brewster, and then you go to Hyannis, and then it's Scatuate, Falmouth, Wareham, Bourne. Okay, it's just like I mean, it's crazy. I never knew how competitive and how much hate there was from and jealousies from town to town. I thought everyone got along because it was just a feel-good story in the summer. It's no different. These little towns hate each other. You know, it's crazy. They have to figure out how to come together and work together to get this thing where they can survive. They're not going to fix it. You can't fix it.
Right.
You know, they've already been. No, you can't. You can't fix something where college coaches are getting $4 million and say, no, you can only make $500,000. And, you know, we need your guys on the Cape. You shouldn't care about your salary and how it could impact it if they get hurt or someone poaches them from another coach from another school sees a kid and offers them more money. That's basically what Gammons was saying is happening. And it's happening.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting.
Well, we'll have to keep our eyes out on that and see what the impact. Hopefully your comment about the future doesn't come to full fruition,
Oh,
but
I
it'll be
know.
interesting to see what happens.
I know. Yeah.
Thank you for your time tonight. I need to wrap us up.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone though, y'all?
Yeah. Are there any other questions from
Hi,
Carl
I don't have a
or-
question. I'm just gonna say thank you because I knew nothing about the Brewster team at all. I said I didn't have a concept of the Cape League. So if you learn something new every day, that's good. So check me out for learning something.
And that's why
And next time I'm trying to see if I'm going to the Cape, which I've only been about 3 times. I'll pay attention because I was in Hyannis last year for like a day and didn't know anything about that. So next time if I get there, I'll take a look.
Yeah, it's always going to be there. They're always going to have a league. And Hyannis is one of the original 4 teams founded in 1923.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. That was the whole thing. I was just hoping that someone like yourself would read this book in a different part of the country and put it on their bucket list. That was probably my biggest goal.
All right.
Right.
If there are no other questions, Mark, thank you again. Definitely passionate about the topic, and I thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Right.
And you can get the book on Amazon, Cape Dreams, A Season with the Brewster Whitecaps, or I have a website called markpathfinderbooks.com and markpathfinderbooks.com or Amazon Cape Dreams.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well,
Bye-bye, y'all.
Good luck with your future book signings.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
All right.
Thanks a lot for having me. Appreciate it. Good night.